All right, let's dive right into an incredible journey taking us all the way from ancient oceans straight into the molecular physics of your cooking pot. Welcome to this explainer on the science of salt. I mean, we literally use it every single day, right? But we rarely stop to think about the massive industrial processes and the exact chemistry behind those little white crystals we just totally take for granted. So let me ask you a question. Do you salt your pasta water so it tastes like the sea? If you do, well, science says you're actually ruining your dinner. I know, right? This super common culinary advice is completely invalidated by cold, hard data. We're going to see exactly why that is, and more importantly, how to fix it using chemistry. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the origins of salt, its journey from brine to table, debunking that seawater pasta myth, diving into the science of starch, and finally locking down the perfect pasta protocol. Section 1. The origins of salt. An ancient force of nature. Let's start with the awe-inspiring global scale of where salt actually comes from before it ever gets close to a factory or your kitchen. Seawater naturally provides about 70% of our total global salt production, but there are also immense salt lakes like Sambar and Chilka, and subsoil water, which actually contains higher salt concentrations than the sea itself. Oh, and let's not forget rock salt, also known as halite. While oceans provide the vast majority of our salt, miners are also out there extracting halite, which are essentially ancient ocean deposits trapped deep beneath the earth from millions of years ago. Moving on to Section 2, from brine to table, the industrial chemistry of pure salt. Once it's collected, raw brine has to undergo some massive industrial engineering to become the pure white condiment we recognize. In the solar evaporation process, we start with brine, which is basically a highly concentrated salt solution. Here, it's concentrated using just the heat of the sun in these massive field evaporators. And what's really fascinating here is that engineers will often use specific dyes or even black sand right in these pools to increase the rate of solar energy absorption. Pretty clever, right? As the water evaporates, impurities systematically separate out at different concentration levels long before the actual pure salt crystallizes. Now, when the sun just isn't enough, or if they need a very specific purity level, the industry turns to chemical artificial evaporation. First, they use aeration to remove hydrogen sulfide, and then they pump that purified brine into multiple effect vacuum evaporators. These things are massive, heated cylinders where the steam from one actually heats the next. It basically boils the brine under reduced pressure to systematically strip out impurities and yield those perfect cubic salt crystals. So the crucial point is, once you actually have these perfect crystals, how do you keep them from just clumping together in the shaker? Well, enter anti-caking agents. As defined here, these are additives like nanosilica or potassium ferrocyanide that are placed in powdered materials to prevent lumps. To ensure your salt doesn't turn into a solid rock, manufacturers blend in these highly engineered agents. They work by either absorbing excess moisture right out of the air or by coating the salt particles to make them water repellent. What's truly surprising, though, is the sheer variety of applications for these agents. Far from being some scary chemical, these moisture-absorbing innovations are incredibly versatile and safely used across both food and heavy industry. Yes, they're in our table salt and spices, but they're also absolutely crucial for cosmetics, road salt for de-icing, fertilizers, synthetic detergents, and get this, even dried milk and sugar products. All right, Section 3, the seawater pasta myth, debunking the taste the water guesswork. Now, let's head into the kitchen and aggressively shatter the biggest myth about applying this engineered ingredient to our food. Seawater has an average salinity of 3.5%. That's about 35 grams of salt per liter. But the scientifically validated perfect pasta water, it has a salinity of only 1.0 to 1.2%. So here's the kicker. Human taste receptors actually saturate at around 1.8%. That means trying to judge a seawater taste is wildly subjective. If you salt the pot until it tastes like the sea to you, you're leaving your water 2.5 times saltier than it should be. No way around it. So what exactly is the magic number? It's 10 grams. Here is the exact empirically validated amount of salt required per liter of water. Not a handful, not a pinch, exactly 10 grams of fine-grained kosher salt per liter. This simple metric is literally the absolute foundation of culinary physics. Which brings us to Section 4, the science of starch, the molecular physics of boiling. Let's look at exactly what's happening to the starch and gluten in your pasta when you hit this scientifically perfect 10-gram ratio. At that exact 1.0 to 1.2% salinity, salt ions disrupt the hydrogen bonding in gluten networks just enough to allow about 65 to 70% hydration. Critically, this delays starch gelatinization from 62 degrees Celsius up to 68 degrees. So this exact ionic strength stops the starch from bursting too early, ensuring the pasta remains perfectly firm through its peak starch release. And you know what? That is exactly how you get that perfect al dente bite. But if you oversalt, say pushing it above 1.4% salinity, you trigger a bit of a chemical disaster. High salinity accelerates starch hydrolysis, converting amylose into dextrins. Basically, if you oversalt, you chemically damage the surface of the pasta, creating a dextrin film that literally repels your sauce. So if your sauce is always sliding off your spaghetti, this sticky, gluey barrier is exactly why. All right, final section, number 5, the perfect pasta protocol, the non-negotiable checklist. To guarantee you never suffer from sliding sauce again, here is the ultimate instructional protocol derived straight from laboratory testing, and you must execute this in exact order. Step 1, measure cold tap water at least 4 liters per 400 grams of pasta. Step 2, weigh your salt on a digital scale exactly 10 grams per liter. Step 3, dissolve the salt completely in the cold water before you even turn on the stove. Dissolving in cold water ensures uniform ion distribution before the heat starts changing the dissolution kinetics. Step 4, bring it to a full rolling boil, totally uncovered. And step 5, add the pasta and stir within 30 seconds to break that initial surface adhesion. Equally important, though, is what you absolutely must avoid. First, do not add salt after the water boils. The dissolution rate drops 62%, creating hot spots that can scorch your pasta. Do not use broth, which just pushes your sodium limits without adding new flavor compounds during hydration. Do not salt after draining. Osmosis will instantly draw the water right out and dehydrate the edges of your pasta. Do not reuse pasta water for soup because it has highly concentrated microbe counts. And crucially, please do not rinse your pasta. Rinsing drops the temperature rapidly and washes away the exact starch you need to emulsify and bind your sauce to the noodle. Now, what if you're dealing with edge cases? Say you're cooking at a high altitude, like 1,500 meters. Well, lower vapor pressure actually reduces sodium diffusion, so you must increase your cook time by 6.4% and reduce your salt to 9.2 grams per liter. What about if you're using fresh pasta instead of dried? Fresh pasta has 22% less gluten and absorbs water over 3 times faster. So drop the salinity to 0.7%, that's 7 grams per liter, and only cook for about 2 to 3 minutes. If you are dealing with edge cases like high altitude or fresh pasta, this is exactly how you must adjust the chemistry to prevent ruining the texture. Okay, we've covered some incredible ground today. Now that you understand the powerful industrial processes, the engineering of anti-caking agents, and the literal molecular physics behind a simple grain of salt, how are you going to transform your next dinner? You now hold the scientific keys to culinary perfection, proving once and for all that true cooking isn't just an art, it's physics. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the science in your everyday life.